I hurt myself.
Alright, I've seen Logan 2 times now, and I feel like talking about it in spoiler detail. That is a spoiler warning to anybody who hasn't seen Logan. I mean, the short answer is, go out and see Logan. What's wrong with you? I mean, if 50 Shades of Cinematic doo-doo can get money, I don't see why people aren't going out and rushing out to go see Logan. Although, from what I've heard, the box office for Logan was pretty strong this weekend, so sounds like most of you did the right thing. But either way, spoiler talk, because I feel like talking about this movie, because I've been thinking about this movie since the second time I saw it, and I just feel like talking about it in spoilers. Probably gonna go back and see it a third time. So right when this movie starts off, it lets you know exactly what kind of movie you're gonna be in for. That is the most brutal, hardcore, violent Wolverine movie that you've ever seen. Wolverine unleashed like never before, and it is so beautiful. That opening scene where Logan is just kind of, you know, these guys are messing with his car. I guess he's a chauffeur or some shit. And he's just kind of like, hey guys, come on, leave my car alone. They shoot him and they're trying to steal his wheels. Then they beat him up a little bit and they're about to blow his head off, and then you just see Logan just get pissed and he's just like, ah, fuck it. And then he shreds like 3 or 4 of them completely in half with his claws. So this dude has a shotgun and he like cuts off his hand. You see his hand on the shotgun on the ground, still attached to that shit. Like, oh yeah, they're going for it. This is gonna be awesome. And that kind of violence is on display throughout the entire movie. They really don't hold anything back in terms of the blood. One of my favorite action scenes is the one at the casino where Charles Xavier freaks out and has a seizure, and he like freezes slash mentally paralyzes slash almost kills everybody. And Logan, I mean, because of, you know, his immune system and his healing factor, I mean, he's able to resist it a little bit better than other people, and so he has to get to Charles, and when he gets up there's like a whole bunch of security people around him, and so he just goes around the room just wiping all of them out in slow motion, and he sticks his claws through a guy's face. And I love the one where he sticks it through the back of the guy's head, and it comes out through his cheek on the other side. It's kind of like, oh my god, that's holy shit. There are almost too many badass moments that this movie had. I mean, like, take the tag team at the end with Wolverine and his daughter against all those soldiers. I mean, that is father-daughter goals right there. That's father-daughter goals. I mean, that's the kind of relationship I want with my daughter one day, you know? And I found myself saying holy shit a lot through this movie because it wasn't just the action that got to me. The thing that I love the most about it after seeing it 2 times, the vulnerability of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. Again, I said in my original review, this is a broken Wolverine, and it really shows throughout this movie. I'm talking mentally, I'm talking physically. Like, he's just broken. He's done. He doesn't care anymore. Throughout most of the movie, he has a limp. I mean, he's limping around, he's beat up. It just adds this vulnerability and this extra tension to the action scenes because you feel like Logan feels. You feel beat up, you feel bloodied, you feel bruised, and you feel like you feel like he couldn't survive. We're so used to Wolverine being this unstoppable animal, this badass, and it's just so refreshing to see old man Logan, not literally old man Logan, but he's Logan who's old, so I call him old man Logan. It's so refreshing to see old man Logan just, you know, he's tired, limping the entire movie. I looked at my friend when I saw that in the theater. I'm like, I'm not used to seeing Wolverine limp. This is weird. Once they catch you up in the story, you realize that Logan and Caliban and Xavier live together, and they're like in this little town. I don't even know how to describe. There's this little warehouse on the edge of nowhere, basically. Logan is trying to buy a boat for him and Charles so that they can go out to sea, and Logan, you can tell, he's planning on probably killing himself and allowing Xavier to die. I said in my original review that Xavier's performance in this movie was heartbreaking, and the reason why is that this is not the Xavier that you've been accustomed to seeing. This is an Xavier that's dealing with a lot of mental issues. He has maybe Alzheimer's, maybe ALS, a degenerative brain disease that's causing his brilliant mind, his once brilliant mind, to break down, and all of a sudden he's just kind of an old fuck now. There's no other way to say it. Xavier in this movie is an old fuck. He's a geriatric, senile, crabby old man. He and Logan just have this old, they feel like an old married couple. I love the scene later on in the car with X-23 where they're just bitching at each other like an old married couple. There's also a lot of tragedy to Xavier's character in this movie. You find out that his powers have become a curse like they were when he was a kid. You know, when he was a kid, he just kind of heard voices all the time, and he heard everyone's voice, and it just hurt him. Now you find out that he's like one of the most powerful mutants ever, obviously. So now that he's old and he's like 90 years plus and he's breaking down, like his brain is causing his powers to hurt other people. That one part in the beginning where he's talking to Logan, he's like, hey, we took you in, we gave you a family, what happened? And Logan doesn't say anything. He just kind of looks at Xavier with like this really sad sense of regret. You find out over the course of the movie that Xavier quite possibly and most probably killed most of, if not all of, the X-Men. They keep referencing this incident that happened in West Westchester. Xavier mentions it right before he, you know, spoiler alert, dies. They even say it on the radio after the casino part. They say on the radio, they're like, this is very similar to an incident that happened in Westchester over a year ago. There was this big psychic attack and everyone was paralyzed and a lot of people were killed, civilians and mutants alike, and Logan cuts it off before it says mutants, but that's pretty much the gist of it. I like the fact that some people like were coming to me and they were just kind of like, man, I really wish they had explained more in detail about where the X-Men are and what they are, and here's my thing with that. I feel like we shouldn't try to ask the movie to spoon feed everything for us. Number one, this is a Wolverine movie, not necessarily an X-Men movie, so it keeps the focus where it should be, on Logan and Xavier and their story. Number two, I feel like the movie doesn't need to bog itself down with a whole bunch of extra exposition where it has to explain every little thing to us. It's in the subtext, man. If you just pay attention and then if you just keep your mind open, there are subtle little hints and references to this event throughout the entire movie. It is heavily implied what happens, and I feel like this is a movie that trusts the audience. This is a movie with depth and layers to it, and it trusts the audience to be able to figure some things out for itself. I personally really appreciated that approach, so I didn't need a full-on flashback or explanation for what happened to the X-Men because it's kind of right there in your face. As the story continues to get deeper, you find out that X-23, this little badass Tasmanian devil chick, she's actually Wolverine's daughter. Like, X-23, the actual character in the comics, I believe is just a full-on clone of Wolverine. In this one, she's a clone, but she's also a clone daughter, and you could tell that Wolverine at first, he wants nothing to do with her, like, at all. By the way, how great is it that she's an X-Men fan? And that the X-Men comics actually exist in this world? I mean, that's some fourth wall busting type shit. When Logan passes away at the end of the movie, you really do feel like there's a bond there. I mean, you feel her breaking down. She finally cracks. I mean, she's been this stoic Samurai Jack persona for most of the movie. She doesn't really say much. It was kind of funny seeing her punch Logan like in the car when they're arguing back and forth. And she shows she definitely has the same type of attitude that, you know, Wolverine has. And so they're arguing and he doesn't agree with her and she punches him. I just thought that was a great moment. But for most of the movie, she's pretty even keel, she's pretty calm, and she's pretty serious, and then towards the end, like, she just cracks, she breaks down, and she cries over her father, and when she called him daddy, I may or may not have shed a couple of tears there. I'm gonna talk about X-24 real quick, because X-24 is the one thing that I walked out of the movie the first time, and I was kind of like, I don't know how I feel about this. And there are some people that have a problem with X-24, as far as I know, is kind of a made-up character, sort of. It's prime Wolverine. He's all rage, he's all instinct, he's all nothing else. He has no personality, he just wants to hack and kill and destroy, and they use him against Wolverine in the movie. And even though Old Man Logan gets his blows in and he throws down with him a couple of times, and it's really satisfying to see, he does ultimately get his ass kicked because he can't face off against prime Wolverine. But at first I was just kind of like, why is that character in this movie? After I saw it the second time, I actually really liked the fact that they went with this direction because I think it works for this movie. I mean, think about it. For most of the movie, Wolverine / Logan, he's dealing with his inner demons. He's struggling with who he used to be. He's struggling with who he is now and how he just doesn't give a fuck anymore. This prime Wolverine, this represents the animal inside of Logan. This represents prime Wolverine. This represents the Wolverine that he has been in the past. And so I feel like the X-24 was actually kind of a physical manifestation of Logan's inner struggle. I feel like he was fighting against himself, both literally in terms of X-24, but also figuratively as far as inside of himself, struggling with, you know, being that reluctant hero again, struggling with finding his soul again, because he's pretty much fucking done at this point. That part at the end where he just stabs him and then he just slams him onto a tree trunk, and Logan at this point, he can't heal, so he's pretty much done. I mean, his injuries are too much. Man, it's just sad shit though, but it's kind of predictable. I mean, you kind of felt like Hugh Jackman had to die at some point, and I'm glad there wasn't a post-credit scene because it just kind of would have betrayed the tone of the movie that came before it. I love the part at the end where the kids are standing at the grave, and one kid has like a Wolverine action figure in his classic yellow suit. I thought that was pretty cool. He's walking away from his grave, and then she goes back, and then she turns the cross, and she turns it and makes it into an X. I thought the symbolism there was just, yeah, great. By the way, this is something that I thought about the second time I saw it. I was kind of like, okay, we never actually find out where the kids are going. We know they're going over the border. We think they're going into Canada. We never actually find out who is on the other end of the radio that kid is talking to. We never actually find out who the other mutants are on the other side of the border. I had a thought. Could it be Department H, or could it be like Alpha Flight or something like that? I mean, I'm just speculating here, but it was my guess. It's Canada, it's New Mutants, and I don't know. I'm just spitballing here. Just let me know if anybody else thought about that. In the end, I loved Logan because this is a very sad and personal and somber way for Logan to go at it. It takes a very deep look at the life of a hero and the life of an animal. And there are so many layers to this movie that, again, I think it does require multiple viewings. And it's a movie that takes itself seriously. There are some good moments of humor throughout. And there are moments of heart throughout. Like, people complained about, you know, the farm scene where they went to go with the farm. I actually kind of liked it, even though I kind of figured they were going to die, just because it just feels like that's what they were in the movie for, to die. But it did show that laughter and love and humor, I mean, that still has a place. And Logan, that's what he was reminded of by Charles Xavier, where Xavier's like, hey man, this shows what life can be. You can still have this. Is Logan your favorite film of the year? And now that we're into spoiler talk, what were some of your theories about the ending? What are some of your theories about, you know, the Department 8 shit that I threw out there? Let me know what some of your ins and outs of Logan are and what your favorite parts about the movie are. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the Superfan Show, and as always, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel, and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.
And where down we go.